The cases of the use of the information alibi mechanism by Russian information resources are widespread. The mechanism of information alibi is a preventive accusation by one party of another of actions to be committed by the latter. The purpose of using this mechanism is to conceal or justify war crimes committed by the Russian occupying forces in Ukraine. On March 12, 2022, a message appeared on the Russian segment of Telegram, alleging that the Ukrainian side was preparing provocations in Mariupol. Ruski Taranta's Telegram channel published the message that Ukrainian forces will shell a mosque to draw Turkey into the war, and the Drama Theatre too, to accuse Russian aviation of doing this. Yeah, there's so much sense in these actions, anyway. On 16th of March 2022, Russian troops conducted an airstrike on the Donetsk Drama Theatre in Mariupol, killing civilians. On the same day, a Russian disinformation operation was launched to shift the responsibility for the war crime to the Ukrainian Defense Forces. In particular, an article titled "Refugee from Mariupol tells how Azov militants blew up a drama theatre," published on the website of the Russian newspaper Komsomolskaya Pravda. On 17th of March 2022 contains a propaganda video in which a so-called refugee from Mariupol blames the Azov regiment for the tragedy. In order to confirm the Kremlin's manipulative interference in the coverage of the situation around the destruction of the drama theatre in Mariupol by the Russian army themselves, the Center for Countering Disinformation, in cooperation with the Molfar OSINT agency, identified the refugee from Mariupol. It was established that this is Kristina Andreevna Yemelkina, who was born in Shakhtarsk, Donetsk region, now temporarily occupied, and actually lived in Mariupol. It is important to note that before the full-scale invasion, the woman visited the temporarily occupied Donetsk, and in May 2023 she received Russian citizenship. In addition, according to the database of the Peacekeeper website, which collects and stores data on various agents of Russian influence in Ukraine and the world, the woman's father, Andrei Vladimirovich Yemelkin, is an accomplice of the militants of the illegal armed group Somalia, which took active part in the war in Donbass in 2014. This war crime of the Russian army was widely covered in the media, not only in Ukraine but also in the world. In particular, Russia's involvement in a terrorist attack against the civilians was mentioned in the Amnesty International report of 30th of June 2022. On 7th of April 2022, at 23:09, the Russian Telegram channel Zapiski Veterana published a post recommending that Ukrainian citizens evacuating from Slovyansk and Kramatorsk and nearby settlements not by rail. The next morning, the invaders launched a rocket attack on the Kramatorsk railway station, where civilians were evacuating from the city. According to the Security Service of Ukraine, the strike killed 61 people and injured 121. Shortly before the shelling, many Russian Telegram channels wrote that Russian occupation forces were firing at the cluster of AFU fighters and wagons with weapons at the Kramatorsk railway station. Later, these messages were deleted. After the crime was committed, the aggressors' propaganda media began to blame Ukraine, calling the tragedy a provocation and a new Bucha for Western allies. However, the Russian federal media outlet RIA Novosti and a number of other propaganda resources released news accusing Ukraine even before the first reports of the tragedy were published. In turn, the Russian Ministry of Defense also accused Ukraine of provocation, stating that no firing missions were carried out or planned by the Russian armed forces in Kramatorsk on 8th of April, and that .U is allegedly used only by the armed forces of Ukraine. However, experts and social media users immediately refuted this accusation, showing evidence of the use of these missile systems by the occupation army. This war crime of the Russian army was widely covered, not only in the Ukrainian media space but also in the world. In particular, Russia's involvement in the terrorist act against civilians was mentioned in a Human Rights Watch report of 21st of February 2023. Such attacks on civilians are brutal reality in Ukraine. I remember well the day I heard about this one. With each terrorist attack and massive death toll of civilians, I could not believe this was actually happening in our country. But the enemy of the civilized world, Russia, is cynical and ruthless towards everyone. Lastly for today, let's look at the Olenivka tragedy. On 5th of June 2022, the Russian Telegram channels reported on that Ukrainian side was allegedly planning a massive missile attack using a multiple launch rocket system in 3 directions, one of which was a prisoner of war camp in the village of Olenivka, where Nazis from Azovstal and Ukrainian military personnel were held. And on June 29, 2022, the aggressor state committed a terrorist act on the territory of the penal colony number 120 in the temporarily occupied Olenivka. As a result, at least 53 Ukrainian prisoners who were being held there were killed and around 70 injured. After the terrorist act, the aggressor state launched a large-scale information influence campaign in which it tried to shift the responsibility to Ukraine. At the same time, hostile information resources launched a discredited information campaign against President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky himself. Thus, reports began to appear in the information space that Zelensky allegedly ordered a strike on Olenivka to prevent prisoners of war from testifying against the government. The news about the terrorist act on the territory of the colony in the temporarily occupied Olenivka, Donetsk region was widely spread in the international media. In particular, on 11th of August 2022, the CNN website published an investigation of this tragedy and provided evidence of the involvement of the Russian Federation in the commission of this terrorist bombing. All of these crimes were prepared in advance, with attempts to blame the victim itself. It looks so ironic when the ones getting killed for nothing are blamed by the aggressor for not giving up immediately. Nail the truth and think logically. It is our best weapon against the lies.
We in the game.